Hey there and welcome. Today we are going to calculate the slope of a line using 2 points. Let's go ahead and get started. First, we need to realize that there are lots of different ways that we can find slope. And in this lesson in particular, we are going to specifically focus on looking at 2 points. Just 2 points to find that slope. So if we're asked to calculate the slope using the points 2, 5, and 3, 7, the first thing that we need to do is remember what slope is. And slope is the change of our y values over the change in our x values. So let's first look at calculating the change in our y. And remember that change is just a fancy word for subtract. So we just need to subtract our y values. So if we remember x comma y, 5 and 7 are my two y values. So I'm going to just go ahead and do 7 minus 5, which gives me 2. Now we need to calculate the change in our x values. And we have our x values of 2 and 3. But what's super important to remember is that we have to subtract these in the correct order. Because we chose -7 to go first for our y value, we have to have 3 go first for the x value. So we have to do 3 minus 2. And when we get 3 minus 2, that gives us 1. So our slope for this problem is going to be 2 over 1, or we can just say 2. They're both the exact same thing, so either one works. Now, to get the direction, we're going to look at our slope and determine if it's a positive or a negative. 2 is positive, so our direction is positive. So when we go to graph, it's going to go in an upwards direction. And then we have to determine whether or not it's going to be steep or shallow slope. Remember, we still look at our slope, and if it's something bigger than 1, it's going to be steep. 2 is bigger than 1, so our slope is steep. All right, let's look at a new problem. All right, so this time we're going to calculate the slope using the ordered pairs -24, 51, and 0, -5. Now, we have the ability to graph these if we want, but let's be honest. Graphing -24, 51 is not exactly something that we want to do. So instead, let's use the formula that we have for slope that we talked about before. In reality, we used this formula in the last problem and we didn't even realize. And that formula is that slope, which remember is our m value, equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Which really just means the difference in our y values over the difference in our x values. It's really all that it means. So if we were to look at this, we have to determine which ordered pair we want to be our x1, y1, and which one we want to be x2, y2. And it's actually completely our choice. So I'm going to make this first one x1, y1, and then the second one x2, y2. And that's just me choosing. It doesn't actually matter which one you choose. Just realize that the 1s have to go together and the 2s have to go together. So if I use this ordered pair, and I use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I have to start with my y2, which is -5. So I have -5 minus our y1, which is 51, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is -24. Now, we have to be super careful with this double negative right here. You need that to stay a double negative. Right? That first negative sign is from the equation that we were given. That second negative sign is because our ordered pair is a negative value. We have to have them both. It's not just one or the other. And so now we need to simplify this. -5 minus 51, that's going to be a party of villains. So total we have -56 villains. Over. Now another thing that we need to remember about that double negative is that when we have a negative and a negative together like that, it turns positive. So now we have 0 plus 24, which is just 24. We cannot keep our slope like this though. 56 and 24 can both be reduced. We need to figure out what number we can divide both of those by to get something smaller and more manageable. Because if I did ask you to graph this, you would not want to have to graph a slope of 56 and 24. So 56 can be divided by 8, and 24 can be divided by 8. So when we divide those both by 8, negative 56 divided by 8 gives me negative 7, over 24 divided by 8 gives me 3. So the actual slope for this equation, for these 2 points, is negative 7/3. Remember that m is the value that we use to represent slope. All right, but so let's do this problem again and assume that we use the points in the opposite order. So instead of the first ordered pair being x1, y1, the second one is x1, y1, and then the first one is x2, y2. It's completely possible to do it this way. Let's just see. We still have that our slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's still our equation. But now we've taken the points and we flipped it. So let's see how that changes the problem. So this time my y2 is going to be 51 minus y1, which is negative 5. So now I have the double negative on the top, over x2 is negative 24 minus x1, which is 0. Again, that negative negative becomes positive. So 51 plus 5 becomes 56 over negative 24 minus 0 is just negative 24. If we can reduce, we still have to reduce. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 8. And so now on top we have a positive 7, and on bottom we have a negative 3. And in reality, that negative can be written in either spot. It can go on the top, it can go on the bottom, it can go in front. But either way, we got the same exact slope. So it doesn't really matter which ordered pair you make which, you just have to keep the order the same. If you're telling me that your x value of the first one is x1, then the y value of that first ordered pair has to be y1. You have to keep that order the same. All right, and let's quickly look at one more problem. So this time we're going to calculate the slope using the ordered pairs 5, 3 and 5, 9. You can choose whichever one you want to be x1, y1 and x2, y2. That's completely your choice. Just going to set it up this way because it's what I'm used to. I'm going to rewrite my equation. And in reality, you should rewrite the equation every single time as well until you know it backwards and forwards. So when I plug in my equation, my y2 is 9 minus my y1 is 3 over x2 is 5 minus x1 is 5. Well, 9 minus 3 gives me 6, and 5 minus 5 gives me 0, and here's the issue. We cannot divide by 0. It is against the rules of math to divide by 0. So what does this mean? If we have 0 in our denominator, it means that our slope is undefined. It does not mean that our slope is 0. That's something different. It means our slope is undefined. When this happens, our equation is actually an x equals whatever your x value is. So in this case, 5. You can't tell me what the slope is because it's undefined. So if I ever ask, undefined is the correct answer. But you can't give me a steepness and you can't give me a direction because it really just means that our graph is going straight up and down. Make sure you remember this. When 0's on bottom, slope is undefined. And that's going to do it for this lesson today. We learned how to calculate slope from 2 points and what it looks like when slope is undefined. So until next time, I will see you later. Love you, bye!